Hey guys, what's going on? So currently on Friday market breakdown. Wow, this week has flown by, honestly. We've had some remarkable opportunities, and I think it's weeks like this where you have so much happening that there's opportunity on opportunity on opportunity, and the week just goes by so quick, and then you're thinking like, wow, we're already on Friday. So nothing really changes. I think there was a time where I didn't really like trading on Fridays. I think perhaps, well, it was definitely fully psychological. It's just I wasn't really making many profitable trades on Friday, and I didn't really understand what I was really doing at the time, and I think that kind of reflected on kind of just teaming up with my psychology on Fridays, and that's why I wasn't able to trade them. But all in all, there should be no reason not to try to trade on a Friday. From experience, a lot of trades have shaped up and a lot of movement happens. Of course, you know, the best trades sometimes don't even shape up on the Friday. Sometimes we get pullbacks and whatnot, but at the end of the day, you know, there's still good trades in there. So yeah, we'll just jump straight into it. So DXY, same as yesterday, and what we've been looking at, we're still looking at this upwards momentum since we bounced off this low. We're now looking at this in continuation. I am looking for something a little bit larger though. I don't think I'm really inclined to look for a long position on a bit of just corrective price. I wouldn't be taking any sort of longs. I'll be looking for something which has a little bit more of structure. I think that's very important, and I think when we are looking for that long position, I will be waiting for that. So if we can, it does seem like, you know, 2 bottoms could be enough, but I will be looking for the 3, and then once we have that, I could be looking for a counter trend on Euro USD, etc. So that's basically my outlook on DXY. Still looking to go pro long on this, but we do have to be aware that we are trading into this little bit of inflection where we sold off from here previously. So understanding that here could be a pivot point, and that's why waiting for this confirmation is very key. This isn't any area of major significance, it's just an area where we did react very aggressively. So if we see that similar aggressive momentum, then we understand that this could be something a part of a larger flag to the downside. However, with the corrective price action, I wouldn't cross that off, so that's why waiting and being patient in this area could be very essential. JP225, still looking to see if we can get that head and shoulders development. You know, we do have the left shoulder, the right shoulder, and I just want to see that push away now. Looking at it on the hourly, you know, it's still a little bit corrective. It does have that room for it to look like it could be going upwards. You know, we did kind of get that push, that side was correct. You know, it's possible we can continue to the upside. However, if we do start to see this sell off, and it could be very aggressive, then we could see similar price action across some yen pairs, which would be quite nice. Moving on to the watch list. So we have GBP New Zealand, which we did get some level of commitment to the low. We haven't really had a breakthrough just yet, so we are waiting in anticipation for that. So remember, we had the override over here, and then we had the correction just above it with the internal structure with patterns within patterns, which is what we always want. And we're looking to see if it can trade to this low, so we can take the short into here to go long. Looking at it on the hourly, it does look like we are getting some sort of progression now. So what I was looking at was this larger formation, but it was getting a bit large and I was getting a bit neutral with it, and then we dropped off now, and as we broke, we're sitting on that low. This is quite a tricky place to be taking a trade, so I'm happy to stay out of a position in here. But if we do sell off and then we do get a bit of a push away and a flag down here, I would be more inclined to take that than a trade on this low, because this can just be a part of something and then it can just shoot up, and then next thing you know, we're making our way back up here. So GBP pairs are looking pretty good though across the board, so I would stay very sharp with that and just understand. But I have got this one on watch. I am going to be waiting to see if we get a solid push up, clearing all of this price, creating a flag up here to go to the upside, which could be the run up here, or if we do get a sell off and then we do create some continuation down there, then I'll take a message from the market. Next one is New Zealand yen. So New Zealand yen was a bit of a tricky one, to be honest. So I took a break even on this one. It was looking very nice, but now I think, you know, it makes sense that this could develop into something larger, which I think I'm more inclined to look for now. So as we can see, we have this larger pattern over here. We've come up into this area and we did have a sell-off. We are still in that continuation area, so we can still sell off from this, and this could just drop off. But I think I'm more inclined now to wait and see if we do form this, because if we do come in here, we come over here and we start to trickle and make our way up here, we could then see a very nice run to at least around this point, and then next price targets could be quite aggressive to the low. So that's one thing that I would definitely be staying sharp for, and yeah, we just have to wait and see. But remember, with the JP225 on the verge of potentially selling off, we can then see that this could actually just play out as we had, you know, the completion of all of this, and then that just becomes the touch with the internal 1 2 3 leading to it, which is in here, 1 2 3 leading there, and then we sell off in correction and then go. So understand that, but I will be looking for the larger structure here. USD CAD is looking really nice. So personally, the way I'm seeing this is with USD CAD is we had this 1 2 3 into the low, we had a reversal structure on the daily, we then pushed up aggressively with momentum, we're back into the range, and now we're creating a correction to move to the upside. This correction is looking actually very nice in my opinion. I think it's easy to stay neutral in this area and think, what about this larger flag? But from this low to here, there's more than enough room to manage it. I think there is this aspect of kind of zooming in too much and then looking at something like this and being like, but what about, you know, the put this and that? Well, you know, at the end of the day, what are you actually trading? Are you trading the higher time frame structure? Are you trading this small pattern here? I think in the grand scheme of things, we are looking at this to go upwards. So if this does make a move and completes this structure here, then we could see this as continuation to the upside in the form of an expanding. So this wedge sort of formation here that we're seeing could be the key flag that we actually need for us to go to the upside. So positioning in here is very essential. Obviously you wouldn't take a position here because the stop loss, well, you could, really and truly you could, but I think it comes with a bit more risk because there is that smaller inner structure there that you would be looking at. But personally, I think that would be more FOMO position. This is more of the position you want to be waiting for now. So if this shapes up and then you do get something like that, which could be a little bit unlikely, but if you do get something like that, then I wouldn't really hesitate on that position. I would then see that and be like, okay, fine, I'll wait for that little push up there, take that, see if I can squeeze in maybe around about, you know, call it around about 10 pips ish, and then to the top of this, yeah, you could just about have, just about move to break even if possible. But then sooner or later, if it does break above, you know, you've got the potential of around about 2 to 3% to the high of this. And then if I was to see this in larger time frame structure, yeah, you could be in a massive run of things if we are making it all the way back up here. Obviously it could take some time, but it could turn into quite a big position. So that's basically how I would look to take USD CAD, but at the moment I'm not looking for USD CAD because I am managing another position, which I'll go into shortly. We've got GBP Aussie. GBP Aussie is still quite corrective on the way down. I'm not too sold on this sell, but I've seen this with GA. Sometimes we do just kind of, you know, sell off, create small flags, sell off, small flag, small, and next thing you know, we're just all the way down here, you know, sell off, small flag, push. I mean, this is better price action for the sell, where we have impulse, correction, impulse, you know, slightly messier but corrections, and then so forth. So that's better of a run. That's really good as a run. Massive impulse, correction, massive impulse. You know, right now I'm just seeing correction into correction into correction into correction, just really shouting. Don't really want to be in that price action right now. I want to wait till it comes back up here, and then if we get something like this in continuation of things, or even like that, honestly, I think, you know, that will be mega. That will be solid for a trade up here. You know, if we get a trade in here, and we even got something like this where we push down, we created this little flag here, we'd be in a very, very well positioned position. So that's what I'll essentially want to wait for. New Zealand CAD. Now, New Zealand CAD is definitely one that we've been looking at for a little bit of time now, maybe 2 weeks, and we are potentially creating this larger structure to continue in the downwards momentum. However, this is massive correction price action, and this can reverse. So I think strategically, this could be a good place to look for longs. Really and truly, I think if we do get this aggressive momentum push through, and then we start creating correction up here, we could look at that to take the long, and this could be the start of a mega run. Honestly, this run could actually, you know, even smash through this potentially, and then start making its way up again. So I would be looking at this one very carefully for that strategic positioning. Kind of gives you a bit of that USD CAD feel, but I think with USD CAD, I'm just going to be a little bit more patient, because obviously there's many factors that I would have to take into place, and I think there's some better pairs on watch for me personally, but USD CAD is definitely one I don't think you would want to miss out on. I just think right now, looking at all of this, perhaps it's possible that we don't get the trade, we come back down here one more time, and then at that point there I might look for the trade. Honestly, I think I'm just looking for a little bit too much on this one, and I'm just not too convinced that this is ready to go yet. I think this might just stall a little bit longer before we see that go. Aussie New Zealand, I think Aussie New Zealand looks pretty good, to be honest. I'm just not too sure about how I'm going to take this. If this does come back into here, then comes up here for the sell, I would be more inclined to look for that short. So yeah, I think right now I'm just not too convinced with this trade. It's not really my typical trade, but if we do get the sell and then the buy and then the sell again, we could be looking for that trade. Aussie US dollar on the other hand, this is one that I think is going to be really nice. So if we look at it on the 4 hour, we can see that, okay, we had this sort of massive structure here, we tapped into this area, we sold off, we created a massive correction, we sold off again, massive correction, sold off, massive correction, and then we sell off. As we get deeper into structure, things do tend to get messy. It's quite normal, and we get a little bit of larger structures and whatnot, but I think this in itself is really nice. So if we can make our way back up to this high, then I can be looking for positioning to look for the short. Obviously we can see here that we tapped into the high, we pushed above a little bit and sold off. Look for similar sort of price action on that, I would say. Don't just look to sell it straight on that high because you get caught out. I think just wait for it to push up a little bit, maybe even move into this sort of low, retest this sort of flag, and then push back down, and then when we get continuation we can get involved. We can see here that there wasn't really much opportunity to take this short as well. So when we came up, came back down, it just was so messy, like you couldn't really make it out. Over here though, on the other hand, you can see that when price came up, we had a little flag over here, we had a flag over there just before the runs, and then it does give you a lot of opportunity. So don't stress if you don't get the flag. You know, either here as well, that was an easy place where you could have been taken out, but I think, you know, the 1 2 3, you would have probably been able to manage that to break even anyway. So yeah, essentially you would have run around about 1.8. You probably would have left it on break even after you moved around about there, and it would have taken you back out. It is what it is, you know, but then you would have taken that on this sort of candlestick formation. You would have seen something like that, and that looked pretty good. You know, if we run that backwards and you look at it like that, that looks pretty good in the formation of continuation to the downside. So, you know, it's just sometimes they play, sometimes they don't, but that's a break even, that's not a loss. It shouldn't be a loss depending on your stop placement. And yeah, so essentially be looking to be positioning myself really well on this, so I'll be waiting patiently on that. I don't think Aussie Swiss is ready yet. I think Aussie Swiss needs a bit of development. I'm not too sure about how I would take that. I think I'm just going to leave Aussie Swiss alone. I don't think it's worth even having it on watch, but I left it on there just for kind of covering it because I had it on throughout the week. But yeah, essentially not really something I'm going to be dwelling with. Euro GBP, now this is my current position, and I have a scaling position as well, which I haven't added on here for some reason. So I'll just quickly go into that in a second. Let me just move the scaling position. And it was just about there. Okay, cool. Yeah, so alright guys, so let's just go into this one quickly. So on the daily we can see here that we've obviously come into this low, right? But how we've moved away from that low is very, very important. And the way we moved away from it was in form of a corrective structure. In the grand scheme of things, we can see how we're moving, right? We had this massive sort of spike up, push back down, corrective price action over here. All of this was just very corrective accumulation, and then what happened was we sold off, created this bigger correction, sold off again, and then moved into this bit in a form of a 1, 2, 3. So we moved into a correction, but we moved back into a correction to the high, forming this sort of larger flag sort of area. And now we're looking at this to take this to the low, which is over here, which would be on the break of that, creating this new low down here. So that low is somewhat level of irrelevant because we've actually broken it, and then that becomes a new low. But more than likely, we're probably just going to push through this and sell off. So positioning on Euro GBP, I think, was extremely good, because we're seeing a lot of momentum in the GBP pairs, and looking at them, it's not sustainable. A lot of them are very corrective, and I'm not seeing a lot of progression in there. So I am seeing a lot of bull momentum coming back into the GBP pair, which would be counter for the Euro GBP, which could lead to this selling off. So essentially what we're looking at is this internal structure. So we had this little point over here, and we had the 1, 2, 3 leading into it. As we had the 1, 2, 3 leading into it, I then evaluated over here. I wasn't inclined to take this evening star. I was more than happy to wait for the insurance entry, just because of the impulsive movement towards it. Easily tagged in, tagged out. Didn't want to get caught into that bad price action. Then we had this sort of corrective price. I was a bit skeptical because it was becoming a little bit large on the hourly. It's not very usual to be seeing larger flags so early on in the move, but then I thought perhaps maybe this could be accumulating enough momentum to get a very strong push. So then I was able to refine on here, and then I was looking at this as the 1, 2, 3 at that point there. And then over here we can see that we were able to take the entry, and we did push up, almost tagged me out, but luckily it came back in and then moved lower. And then I was able to manage my position just above here, and I was leaving it just around about 1%. I think it's still there at this point now. I'll be moving it shortly. And then as we corrected and created this, I was like, well, my stop protection is here. I've locked in 1%. More than happy to use that strategic 1% for my next position. So at some point I was looking at this as a mistrade, and I was thinking, okay, this definitely, now if I take it, it would be around about here, and I'll take it on a reduced risk. But when I did actually look at it, we actually started to correctively push back in, and I was like, okay, fine. So if I was to take this, I'm more than happy to take it around about this area here. And I guess this is a little bit on the side of, you know, you're getting in a bit prematurely, but I was happy because I was still protected. So I was like, if price comes back up here, this is the first sort of area we'll be testing, and I want to just see how we sort of go. So as soon as we did that, price came back up. I actually, whilst this was a bullish candle, opened up the sell position over here, and then had my stop protection way above this structure here. So if we started correcting, coming all the way back up here, then I know that this probably is all cancelled out, and I would have taken a break even in the whole massive scheme of things. But fortunately, we did actually just immediately sell off, and I think during this webinar, this video, we just kind of dropped off. So we'll just see how that kind of plays out now. It's looking pretty good on both positions. So I have this one running roughly around about 4, and this one should be around about 2, and yeah, it's roughly around about 6% at this point. So it's not bad, to be honest, to be looking at things like that. I think, you know, it's just really more about protection sometimes, because we're looking at the bigger picture, and we can see we're coming from impulse correction. Where is the protection? Protection is above. Okay, fine, I'm more than happy to be involved in that. The next one is Euro USD. Euro USD is still a little bit not fully developed. I think this is what I'm looking for on the DXY as well, this larger flag. I'm going to be looking for this to come in here. You could be looking for a counter buy position to come back into here, to maybe finally come back into here to look for the long on this, and then we get that as a massive push up. I think that could be pretty cool as a position, but the real question is, how long will that take? But it definitely shapes up and looks right, so I will wait for that. If we get that nice little middle section there, that'll be sick, man, honestly. This could still form into be something more like a bear bull flag, so understand that we could get something a little bit more angled, and we could have something like that where it kind of drops off a little bit, comes back up, and then we go like that. That's also a possibility, but More so, I'm kind of more on the favorable side of this turning into a larger flag, so I'm just going to wait patiently for that one. No need to have it on watch today. And then last but not least is GBP. No, not last. GBP US dollar is basically the last one on the wildcards, but it's basically working in continuation of this expanding. So if I zoom out quickly, what we can see over here is that we have this sort of larger move, right? And we are moving in continuation to the upside, but we have to understand that we are creating this sort of this was more of a bull flag, and then we moved into an expanding on this high, right? Doesn't mean that we're going to come all the way back down, but it does mean that we are playing this structure here. And if we're playing the structure for the short, we have to understand that we could have this as a push. We had our first flag over here. Well, we had one a little bit earlier, but we're not going to look at that one for now. And then basically after this one, we had an impulsive push, and now we're creating another flag. This flag could be another flag which takes us to a short. Perhaps maybe we come to around about this region before we push back up, but there could be more than enough room for us to position ourselves well. So I'll just show you how this could play. If I took this on a reduced risk and I took it with roughly around about, I think 10, 12 would be fine. We could then see this taking it to the low of this pattern. We could see potentially a 6%, but if it does sell off and we do get this complete that expanding, comes all the way back down to this low, that could turn into a 30% position. So you have to ask yourself as well, positioning wise, would you really not want to be positioned on that? Because then if you look at something like this flag here and you positioned yourself well there, which was very, very possible, or even on the high, you know, you'd already be running roughly around about 8-9% on that. So yeah, 12% that ran, and really and truly you'd probably still be in this trade. Possibly, I don't know, I think maybe once it ran about 12%, you would have locked in 10 just for the sake of it, and then been out, and then now be working on your next one. But that could probably shape up very, very soon. I think that will be a very similar trade to the one I took on Euro GBP, to be honest. So let's wait and see how that shapes up. But like I said, it does seem like there could be some bullish momentum coming into these pairs, and this does look very corrective on the way down. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if this did push through and come up a little bit higher before we did sell off. So I wouldn't just bank on a risk entry on that. I would wait for the confirmation personally, because we haven't really got that structured approach neither. Swiss yen, I know I've had this one all week, we just haven't had any opportunity on it. There's potentially the buying opportunity on here though, which is quite interesting. And I did see this, but I wasn't really interested in taking it. But we had that sort of section here, and you could have looked for the buy in this area here. I think going into the 15, we could have seen that retrace, and I think this is where I would have been inclined to look for a buy. It would have waited all week for this, and yeah, you'd be running that, could run about 2%, but then if that does push through, that could turn into quite a good trade. So yeah, we have a decent flat flag at the top up here, which is quite interesting. GBP yen, GBP yen, man, honestly, playing with people. Like I said, we're seeing that bullish momentum. I think I was looking at this for the short yesterday, but then it just started messing around too much, way too much, honestly. The short, when I saw the push down, there was a little bit of a flag there, and then it just went on too long, and I was like, I'm happy to stay out of this market. I think I came out with something small, like 0.6% profit. Honestly, just, it's one of them ones where I think you just have to take a message from the market. Now, we can see right here that this hasn't really had its commitment. There isn't any commitment on this just yet, so we could get this left shoulder, right shoulder situation where now we just immediately turn around and sell off. Unlikely, but I was looking for this for the sell, and yeah, we'll just have to wait and see, man. Honestly, if we do come in back with a bit of aggression and then we create a flag, we could look to entertain it, but I think it just becomes a little bit more higher risk. I just have to kind of evaluate that carefully. I think that comes with a bit more experience, but understand this, right? We are on the daily, we're trading in very good territory up here. We could sell off and even make it to this low. So if we're looking at that as a potential low, we can see that we had this corrective price, the push low. It's still kind of corrected, carried on with the corrective price, but if that does commit and sells, we could take it to the low to eventually look to go long. But at the moment, I think this correction is just way too messy at the moment, and you've just got to learn to read through it. So let's wait patiently and see how that shapes up. But at the moment, we just gotta wait and see. It's looking good though, honestly. It's now completed its pattern, so don't think that this massive candle can't just fully retrace, because it can come all the way back down. Honestly, it doesn't have to keep going long. I think right now it's a very interesting point in price where we can learn a lot from it. The next one is CAD Yen. I think CAD Yen is also a stunning play. I think it needs some time to develop, but we're getting there. Honestly, once we get up here, we're going to be looking very, very good on this pair. So just be patient with CAD Yen. And then USD Yen. USD Yen just ain't giving me nothing, I'll be honest with you. I've got no time for USD Yen because right now there's no structure there. So it's just basically going in slow, corrective, messy. Honestly, like, there's nothing I can really say about this pair. I would look for some sort of structure to develop before I even entertain a trade on this. So yeah guys, that basically covers my watch list and wildcards for today. I think obviously the golden one we've got here is Euro GBP, which I'm currently running around about 7% at the moment. Yeah, honestly love it. It's looking good. Yeah, I'll update you in tomorrow's video. Have a good day.